What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another episode of Player Ratings as Spurs smashed Crystal Palace 4-0 at Selhurst Park yesterday. And let's get straight into the player ratings, starting off with Hugo Lloris. Brian gives him a 7. I gave him an 8, and it was a great response from him after his poor display at Aston Villa, or at home to Aston Villa last week. And Conte was calling on his big players to step up, and that they definitely did yesterday. And Hugo Lloris was definitely part of that. Made 3 really important saves. First one from Jordan Ayew in the first half, another one from Jordan Ayew in the second half, and one from Wilfried Zaha as well in the second half. But something else I noticed from Hugo Lloris, he was quite commanding from the crosses coming in, catching them, and his distribution was quite on point yesterday as well. So I'm very happy with his display yesterday.
Yeah, I'm giving him just one below because he had those 3 saves to make, which he did very, very well. And the first one, as I said to you, that first one in the first half where he was going the other way and went back, that save looks a lot better on camera than it did in the ground. It's a fantastic save. The other 2 were good, but apart from that, in the second half, Crystal Palace was like long shots and they were going wide and everything. But I hadn't taken into consideration, like you said, how commanding he was. It was certainly brighter than Villa, and that's the standard we expect from Hugo.
Exactly.
So yeah, 7 for me.
All right, let's move on to Kieran Romero. Again, Brian gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. And I thought it was a really dominant display from Kieran Romero on the right of a back 3. And it wasn't just his brilliant challenges and interceptions that he always does and is always making. When he's in this kind of form, it's so hard to play against him. And it's not just the way he defends, it's the way he goes forward as well. And there was one brilliant ball he played into Harry Kane where he played it through to Son when Son was eventually offside. But he does those balls time and time again, and I think that's like a really underrated bit of his play. But not only that, just like Brian was saying to me before, like how he's in defence and then suddenly you just see him up front, and I mean that just epitomises Kieran Romero. He's all over the pitch, all over the time, and just impacts stuff in such a positive way, and I just love watching him play.
Yeah, I mean I've got to say, but just before the World Cup and with all the injuries, I was being very, very critical of him for his I don't know what word to use here, but for his lack of what I thought was lack of dedication to Spurs and putting Argentina first. It was a World Cup, you can kind of get it, but I wasn't happy with what he was doing or what was happening, because he is head and shoulders our best defender. Head and shoulders, and got a great first half against the only player that can really hold his head up high against Villa. And today was another Romero performance. Yesterday was another Romero performance we can be proud of. But the only reason I've given him a 7 is a lot of the stuff that was happening wasn't really coming down his side, was it? It was on the other. So for me, I've just given him a 7, but what I can say is we're seeing the Romero of last season starting to come back, and that's great for us and worrying for everyone else.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Eric Dier. 7s all round for him, and slotted back into the central part of the back 3, and I thought he put in a good display. No dire calamities in this one, and I thought he dealt with most things that came his way, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more you can say on that. The one thing I will take from it as well is he came in with the tensions how they were. If there had been a big error, it could have been catastrophe for him and the team, but from the fans. But he did what he did well. He kept himself composed. Just more of the same, Eric. More of the same. Get these mistakes out of your system, especially for the next Premier League game. Absolutely spot on. And now let's talk about the third defender in that back 3 on the left side, Clement Longley. 7s all round from us once again. And again, I felt like he mopped up most of what came down his way and put in a nice assured display. I think that from that position on the left side of the back 3, like Kieran Romero, I'd like to see them get forward a bit more, especially with his ball playing ability. We've already seen him have 2 assists this season in the Premier League. But nonetheless, I thought it was a nice assured display from Clement Longley yesterday. Yeah, you know, what I'm starting to notice with him is he's getting a run of games now. It's not in, out, whether it's centre-back or left centre-back. He seems to have made himself first choice in a back 3. Doesn't matter what position. And the more and more he's playing, the more and more comfortable he's getting. Still a couple of times where I think he's a little bit slow, but with this run of games he's getting, you're starting to see signs.
You know, with Clement Longley, right, if from what you've seen so far, would you like to sign him permanently?
No. And maybe I said no a bit too quick there. I think there's better that we can get. I think there's better we can get, but whether we go and pursue them and can entice them to come to Spurs is another thing. If we were to sign him, I wouldn't be delighted, but I wouldn't be upset, so to speak. But I just think with what we're trying to achieve and the money we blatantly have, I think we can do better.
All right. Let's move on to Matt Doherty. 8s all round from Roberto Carlos yesterday, and he just worked tirelessly hard on that right-hand side, didn't he? Getting up and down that pitch. Got his reward for it with that goal as well, with a nice finish into the bottom corner, albeit it wasn't completely in the corner because the keeper got his hand to it and probably should have kept it out, but it was hard enough to get past that keeper, and I was really happy for him because in that pre-season or mid-season break and with those friendlies, we really saw him getting on the score sheet. We didn't see him really get in those positions in the last couple of games, but he really did in this game. And after that goal went in, you just saw that confidence reap through him. He was hitting the ball over his head, trying Zidane volleys and stuff like that. So it was a really good display from Matt Doherty, and more of the same, please.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say, this is the guy we thought we were buying. The guy from Wolves that was high up on assists, high up on goals, instrumental part of Wolves going forward. And obviously with Conte playing wing backs, he needs to do this. And there's performances that he does put in like this that just need to be consistent like they were at Wolves. But it was a great performance. Like you said, when he tried to do that, can you imagine if he'd scored that? Yeah. If he had scored that, I don't know. It would have been insane. But
would that have been better than Dele Alli's goal up there?
I think. Well, Dele Alli's was on the edge of the area. You can't knock the sheer brilliance of that goal. But Dele Alli always had that capability. Matt Doherty doesn't. And I mean, if you were to say the perfect day, that if he had scored that goal, then we'd be talking Puskas Award coming back to us. Another a trophy coming to Spurs.
3 in a row.
Yeah.
But yeah, great performance from Matt. Let's talk about the midfield now. Let's talk about Ollie Skipp. 5 all round from us, and I thought he started the game really well. Was getting forward, created a chance for himself with a shot which didn't really bother their keeper, but the intent was there for sure. But then once Palace started to get on top, I thought he'd really struggled in that centre of the park with Zaha giving him a really torrid time. There was one time where he was just twisting him inside out, which led to that chance for Jordan Ayew where all he had to do was square it to Olise, and it was probably 1-0 to Palace. But, look, I expected more from Skipp, but I think that this is what you see when a player doesn't play consistently, and I thought you saw definitely rustiness there from Ollie Skipp. Did get taken off for Pape Matar Sarr with 25 minutes to go, and I thought Pape Matar Sarr put in a really good shift after that, and I thought he played better than Ollie Skipp. But, look, Ollie Skipp needs games. I think that's what he needs right now, and I think the rustiness is there for all to see.
I think you're right. I think like when we're talking about loan moves to maybe going out, I think Matar Sarr maybe staying, and Ollie Skipp could do with a loan move to get minutes, because it's quite concerning that someone of his age, and I'm a huge fan of Ollie Skipp's, someone at his age is tiring so quickly. Whether it's rust, whether it's because of the injuries, he's a young guy. He shouldn't be exhausted or running out of steam like at the tail end of the first half. That should be... So that's a concern for me. Like you said, he started brightly, but when Palace started getting a hold of it, especially Zaha, he just didn't know what to do with himself. So I'm fortunate to give him a 5, but warranted.
Yeah, he got the run around a bit yesterday from the pacey Palace attackers, that's for sure. Let's move on to PierreEmerick Aubameyang. Again, 5s all round from us. Yes, for yesterday's performance for Pierre, and... Again, I thought Pierre was really sloppy yesterday in his passing. We always know what you're going to get with Pierre. He always gives 100% effort. He's always putting in those challenges and finding those interceptions. But what disappointed me yesterday was when Joachim Andersen was lining up that shot, he just completely turned his back and let Andersen get past him to get that shot off. And that's really not what you associate Pierre with. And I think these last 2 performances from Pierre have been poor. But I have no 2 ways about it. I'm pretty sure he's going to come back for the North London derby and put in a real big shift for us.
Yeah, that last part I agree. It's so hard for me to have to say give him a 5 because people know how much I love Pierre. It wasn't his normal self. It was the fact that he turned his back. If there's one person on that team that I thought would not turn their back on anything, it would be him. And he was just... holding on to the ball too long. He was trying things that he shouldn't be doing. It was just a very un-PierreEmerick Aubameyang performance. That's 2 in a row. I'm sure, like you said, there won't be a third.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's move on to Ivan Perisic. 7s all round from us. Grabbed his 5th assist of the season in the Premier League, 8th in all competitions as well, which you got to say is amazing stats for Ivan Perisic. I thought he impacted the game really well on that left-hand side. There were a few sloppy passes in there from Perisic. One notable one that he was trying to find Ollie Skipp with, and Ollie Skipp had to lunge to get it and ultimately got booked because of it. But that ball he put in from Harry Kane was right on the money. And that's what you expect from Ivan Perisic week in, week out now, because that left foot of his is a wand of a left foot. And I love watching him put that ball in. There was one chance where he should have scored, and you're kind of thinking now, like, when is he going to get that goal? When is he going to get that goal? Because we've seen him score so many times for Inter Milan, for Croatia, Bayern Munich, but he still hasn't gotten that score sheet for Spurs. But nonetheless, I thought it was a really good display from Perisic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, what I love about him is it's the style of crosses. It could be a stand up to the back post. It could be a whipped in cross. It could be a drilled cross. And they always find the danger zone. They always do. And again, I still want to see him advance sometimes. I want to see him at least tried in this advanced position. Put Son on the right, or give Son a rest take him once he's been taken off, if he's been taken. See what he can do advance, because what he does going forward is miles better than what he does in defence. And these crosses, they're just a joy to see. And Harry Kane must be licking his lips when it goes down the left wing and you can see Perisic is getting towards the byline. He's got to be thinking, right, I've got a chance here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's how his goal comes to break Jimmy Greaves' record. A Perisic cross, and then that will be folklore as well. But yeah, he should at this goal. He just cannot get this goal, can he? North London derby.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say it's coming next weekend, isn't it? But no, Ivan Perisic has definitely been a good signing, and I wonder, out of his 8 assists, how many of them have been for Harry Kane? I bet you a very high number of them has. If anyone knows, let us know in the comment section below. But let's move on. Let's talk about Hill Messi, Brian Hill. The fans were in full voice for him yesterday, and he put in a performance to behold. 8s all round from us for Brian Hill, and in the first 15 minutes of the game, he did start the game brightly, had a nice curling effort, which was the keeper was equal to. And then for the majority of that first half, he was putting in that kind of a carbon copy of display that we saw against Aston Villa, where he was getting pushed and shoved off the ball quite easily. But second half, he came out with a real point to prove, and he put in a really good display. He was involved in 3 of the 4 goals. The first one, obviously, played that nice ball out to Perisic, where Perisic crossed it in for Harry Kane to nod home. The second one, he played that lovely ball into Harry Kane in between those 2 Palace players. And the other one, he played it to Harry Kane to play it over the top for Heung-min Son. So to have at your hand in 3 of those goals, to get 2 pre-assists and 1 assist, I think is absolutely sensational. I think you mentioned it before, saying that he's going to be looking in the mirror going, you the man today. Definitely. And look, Brian Hill, this is the performance which we all wanted to see from him, because we all know that he's got the talent, but we didn't know if he can do it in the Premier League. And to do it in such a ground like Crystal Palace, where they're usually so aggressive and so on top of you, it's very impressive from Brian Hill. Yeah,
I think what you got to add as well is the pass to Harry Kane may have been obviously straight through, but it has to be the right way to pass for him to be able to get it out of his feet and get that shot off quickly. Everything about that pass and that move was right. You could see him wanting to be more available. You could just see it starting to the belief in himself. And you know what? The most important thing, got home, watched it on Match Today, and Ian Wright bigged him up and was singling him out for praise. So Ian Wright, who I must admit is very, very straight down the middle. He doesn't have his allegiance, always showing his bias, shall I say. But that's the performance we'd all been waiting to see. He done it in Europe, didn't he? A couple of Pacos de Ferreira and everything, and it's nothing compared to away at Sellers Park. So delighted for Brian Hill, and hopefully that is the start of something. His confidence would have skyrocketed, though.
Absolutely. Let's move on to Sonny Boy, Heung-min Son. 7s all round from us. Finally gets his goal right at the end to seal it at 4-0. But for the most part of the game, let's be honest, for the first 70 minutes, let's say, it seemed as though it was going to be another frustrating day for Heung-min Son. His passing was off, heavy touches once again, but he did have his hand in 2 goals. Obviously scored the 4th, and it was his pass that got deflected that found its way to Matt Doherty for his goal. And I felt like as soon as Son scored that goal, the whole weight of the world was lifted off his shoulders, and you started to see him play with a bit more confidence. And you saw that before he scored that goal, the confidence wasn't really there when Harry Kane played him through, albeit he was offside. But a Sonny on form and a Solly with confidence completely finishes that, and he kind of fluffed his lines, and the keeper saved it. But like I said, after the goal, it looked like he got his confidence back, and hopefully now we're going to see the real Heung-min Son turn up just in time for the certain North London derby.
Yep, all roads lead to North London derby, and it's great that he's got his goal. Everyone had been crying out for it. Everyone wanted to see it. We did get to see it. Just like I said, the first half he did start slowly. It wasn't because he wasn't doing anything. He was trying to do things. They just weren't coming off, which was a bit different to what I've seen in other games. But yeah, so he got the goal, took it well. Should have, like, he didn't know he was offside, so you would have wanted to see him finish it. But at least he's got that goal. At least that second half, he certainly put in a much better shift and a more productive shift. And let's just hope the North London derby is the next game he scores in the Premier League.
Absolutely. And let's go to the final man of the starting 11, and best till last, Harry Kane. Brian gives him an 8, I gave him a 9, and I thought he was just sensational yesterday. He was fairly quiet in the first half, not going to lie, but I think what he did well in the first half was dropping deep, especially in those first 15 minutes, dropping deep, knitting the play together, bringing others into play, which I thought was brilliant. Palace obviously had the better of that second half of the first half, and he wasn't very much involved, but it's the second half where he really came alive. He was just the hub of the whole team. Everything that Spurs were doing well, it was coming through him. Both of those goals were taking sensationally well. First one from Perisic's cross, that header into the near post was brilliant. But that second goal, that finish was just sublime. Absolutely sublime. Hill plays it into him through the lines of those 2 Crystal Palace players, and he just slots it into the side netting, into the far post, and it was just brilliant to see. It really was. And obviously got that assist for Sonny's goal as well, where, yeah, maybe the defender should have done a bit better there, but he did really well, Harry Kane, to get that over the top to get him in, and everything that he was touching really turned to gold in that second half.
Yeah. Only reason I gave him a 1 mark below is I can remember in the first half he just gave the ball away too easily, but the second half performance was much more the Harry Kane performance we know and love. I love that he did drop deeper in the first half, but he just gave the ball away a couple of times too many for my liking. But the second half, if I had to rate on the second half, I'd be a 9 with you all day long. It was just a very, very... I'm nitpicking here.
2 goals and an assist, man. What more could you want?
Okay, all right. You're
bump him up. Come on.
Let's bump him up. 9.
All right, and let's move on to the only sub we're going to rank because the others didn't have too much time. Is Pape Matar Sarr. 7s all round, and I love it when you call me Big Papa. And this guy is growing as a Spurs player. I love this guy already, only with 2 cameos off the bench, but he already, to me, looks more suited to the Spurs system than Bissouma has pretty much all season, in my opinion. I think he comes on, he looks like he has a slight build, but he actually is quite strong on the ball. There was one moment where he just pinged a Crystal Palace player off the ball and drove into the midfield and ultimately got fouled, and I thought it was a really good move. But apart from that, he was getting the ball. He's so calm on the ball, passing it right, left, very rarely losing the ball. And I'd like to see him given the nod against Portsmouth and see what he can do over 90 minutes. Because I think this guy has bundles of talent. I really do.
Yes, I want to talk about what you just said about how confident he looks on the ball. For someone so young, it was nice to see him. All right, he came on at what, 2-0 up?
2-0, yeah.
2-0 up. He did look very, very comfortable and at ease of the ball. And at the time where we just needed to have some assurances and just be easy, he certainly did bring that to the game. And when we all started shouting, you know to him, when he took, like you said, that move where he just pinged off a defender, took one on, and then got the foul, he earned his Spurs there. He definitely, I now see, I see a lot more than I thought we were ever seeing him.
And what I'm hearing from sources close to Conte is that he might be above Bissouma in the pecking order now.
That's a huge step to take over, isn't it? But then again, is it? Because again, we bought Bissouma, who plays in a 3 at Brighton and would have been the main person and the main man, and he's come here and come to the big teams, and he's had to settle and learn that it's a different kettle of fish. And I think Basuma needs to start turning up, or he might find himself, like you said,
order, yeah.
Yeah, he really could.
Yeah, completely agree. But let's move on to Antonio Conte. 8 all round from us. And it's the perfect response, really, to the last couple of games. Trusted in the youth as well. Brian Hill given the nod once again, and he reaped the rewards for that. Pape Matar as well, coming on off the bench, which also he reaped the rewards from, which makes me think that maybe Jed Spence is just not ready.
Yep.
If he's giving the nods to Brian, maybe he's kind of like got his arms twisted behind his back because we don't have too many options in that position. Fair enough. But even when we didn't have options at right wing back, when Emerson Royale is the one playing week in, week out, he didn't want to give the nod to Spence. So maybe it does feel like Spence is just not ready yet. But look, this isn't about Spence, this is about Conte. And I thought he made the changes at the right time. Tactics were on point. We started the game really well. Obviously, Palace did come into it in that second half, but second half of the first half, they came back into it. But second half, I mean, we were just brilliant, and it was a great attacking display.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you got to look at with him as well is, excuse me, he would have known or heard the media speculation. He would have heard the fan unrest, and is there Conte out? People, is there? Where is this going? So this game, for the club, for managers, for the players, was huge, and he had to get this right. He had to get it right. And after the first half, it was okay. This is nervy, but he dealt with it. Second half came out, and he got the job done. And if he was in any doubt of how we feel about him, he certainly would have been by the time he left the game. The noise with the Antonio chants, another chance, but he got the job done. The team did well. He gave Sarr some time. He gave Hill the time that he obviously believed that he deserved. And those are the big things that have worked for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, with so many injuries at the moment, with Bentancur, Kulusevski, Richarlison, to go away to Crystal Palace and have a convincing victory like that and win 4-0 is not to be sniffed at all. When you're looking at the last 3 times we've been to Crystal Palace, we haven't been able to get a win. To go there and batter them 4-0, I mean, you're not going to find many teams that go to Crystal Palace and win 4-0.
No, you're not. No, you're not. And like I said, we silenced that crowd. We silenced that crowd, which not a lot of people get to do on a very regular basis, and it stems from Antonio Conte.
Absolutely. So, back Conte, people. Back Conte,
Damn
Mr.
right.
Levy.
Back Conte.
But that is your player ratings for today. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of the ratings. Put your ratings as well in the comment section below. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs.